The 9,872nd meeting of the Security Council is called to order. I should like to take this opportunity to pay tribute on behalf of the Council to His Excellency Mr. Fu Kong, Permanent Representative of China, for his service as President of the Council in the month of February. I'm sure I'm speaking from all the members of the Council in expressing deep appreciation for Ambassador Fu Kong and his team for the great diplomatic skill with which they conducted the Council's business last month. The provisional agenda for this meeting is Peace and Security in Africa. The agenda is adopted. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. Members of the Council have before them the document S/2025/131, the text of a draft resolution submitted by the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The Council is ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2025/131 please raise their hand? The result of the voting is as follows. The draft resolution received 15 votes in favor. The draft resolution has been adopted unanimously as Resolution 2776 of 2025. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements after the vote. I give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, President, and welcome to the Presidency. The unanimous adoption of this resolution today sends a clear message. The Council is united in its determination to support Somalia's efforts in the fight against al-Shabaab. This resolution retains a powerful package of sanctions designed to further degrade al-Shabaab, disrupt its finances, strengthen international collaboration, and support Somalia in building its own capabilities. And it again demonstrates the Council's commitment to continue working with Somalia to ensure that these measures are adjusted progressively and appropriately in response to the evolving security context. This was also the first Council resolution on this regime that we have negotiated with Somalia as a fellow member of the Security Council. We welcome the constructive approach that all Council members took across this negotiation, which enabled us to arrive at this consensus outcome. And we look forward to continuing our close engagement with Somalia, with Council members and with the region across the many vital upcoming Council decisions on Somalia this year. Finally, President, the resolution we've adopted today also recognises the particular concern posed by flows of weapons from Yemen to Somalia. Al-Shabaab's links to the Houthis are part of a wider pattern of Houthi destabilising activity beyond Yemen's borders. The 2713 and 2140 sanctions committees should coordinate closely to monitor and counter this trend. And we call on all Council members to work collectively to tackle these links, which represent a significant risk to the stability of Somalia and the region. I thank you.
I thank the representative of United Kingdom for the statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Guyana.
Madam President, I have the honour to deliver this statement on behalf of the A3+ member states, namely Algeria, Sierra Leone, Somalia, and my own country, Guyana. At the outset, the A3 Plus extends its congratulations to Denmark on its assumption of the presidency of the Council for the month of March. We pledge our full support to your delegation in the execution of this important function. Allow me to also express appreciation to the delegation of the United Kingdom for ably facilitating the negotiation of the resolution just adopted. The A3 Plus is grateful to all delegations for their constructive and valuable inputs throughout the process. As the federal government of Somalia continues its efforts to degrade the threat posed by al-Shabaab to Somalia and the region, the support of the international community remains critical. We therefore welcome the unanimous support for Resolution 2775. Madam President, the A3 Plus supported Resolution 2775, which renewed the al-Shabaab sanctions regime and extended the mandate of the panel of experts because we continue to ascribe importance to these elements in the fight against al-Shabaab. Nonetheless, our position is that the al-Shabaab sanctions regime should be comprehensively assessed to determine its fitness to support the efforts of the federal government of Somalia in combating the threats posed by al-Shabaab, given the continuing evolution of the security situation in Somalia. While we regret that our proposal to this end was not fully taken on board, the A3 Plus engaged constructively on the text. We welcome, in this regard, the mandate given to the Secretary General to conduct a technical assessment of the arms embargo targeting al-Shabaab and to report to the Council on this by 1st of November of this year. We also welcome the Council's intention to review the appropriateness of the measures comprising the sanctions regime with a view to taking appropriate action as necessary once the Secretary General's report is received. We urge the Council's continued support and attention to the priorities identified by the federal government of Somalia during that review. The A3 Plus underscores the importance of implementing measures to degrade the threat posed by al-Shabaab. The federal government of Somalia continues to demonstrate its commitment to this end, and we acknowledge in particular the important role of Somalia's Central Monitoring Department in weapons and ammunition management. In this context, we urge member states to enhance their compliance with existing sanctions measures and support the efforts of the federal government of Somalia aimed at curbing the illicit flow of weapons to al-Shabaab. The A3 Plus acknowledges that degrading the threat requires a multifaceted approach, which includes disrupting the group's finances and reducing the threat posed by improvised explosive devices. We commend the gains made by the federal government of Somalia in this regard and urge continued international collaboration and support to build on those gains. Allow me to conclude, Madam President, by underscoring the commitment of the A3 Plus to working with all Council members in the months ahead to examine the al-Shabaab sanctions regime with a view to ensuring that it is effectively supporting the efforts of the federal government of Somalia to combat the threat posed by al-Shabaab. I thank you.
And I thank the representative of Guyana for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank the members of the Council for their engagement on this resolution and the United Kingdom for its assiduous efforts as the penholder. The United States welcomes the extension of the panel of experts' mandate and renewal of some arms embargo, travel ban, and asset freeze measures. The renewal of the panel provides critical oversight and reporting necessary to inform the al-Shabaab Sanctions Committee and this Council. We look forward to the swift appointment of the experts so they can begin their important work. The Red Sea smuggling routes connecting Somalia-based terrorist groups to those in Yemen place a premium on international cooperation. We are concerned by growing ties between al-Shabaab and the Houthis in particular. We encourage dialogue between the Yemen and al-Shabaab sanctions panels and countries in the Horn of Africa and the Arabian Peninsula to shed light on and ultimately sever the ties between the Houthis and al-Shabaab. Regional dialogue is also needed to address piracy, weapons trafficking, and the illicit activities that fuel terrorism. If fully implemented by member states, the measures in this resolution will curb al-Shabaab's and other non-state actors' access to funds and weapons needed to carry out attacks and address the drivers of conflict in Somalia. They will also ensure Somalia's security and the police institutions can receive the needed resources to combat terrorism and secure the people of Somalia. We urge our fellow council members to support additional designations, including those of al-Shabaab operatives. In addition to those operational significance, these designations demonstrate the international community will promote accountability and end impunity for those who undermine peace and security in Somalia and the region. The United States will address the threat posed by al-Shabaab and other terrorist groups and will continue to work closely with the government of Somalia, fellow council members, and all stakeholders to protect our shared interests. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
First of all, we would like to thank the delegation of China for the very skillful leadership of the Security Council during the tense month of February and wish the delegation of Denmark every success. The Russian Federation supported the draft Security Council resolutions and sanctions against the terrorist group al-Shabaab drafted by the UK. We think it was reasonable to introduce into the text of the resolutions provisions which were aimed at strengthening the financial controls in Somalia. Such measures are needed to stem the resources supplied to al-Shabaab and therefore their possibility of being involved in illicit economic activities. We're gratified that the draft resolution contains elements which meet the aspirations of the Somalian side when it comes to the upcoming review of the sanctions regimes we're discussing today, the regime which has been in effect since January 1992. We are convinced the time has been ripe for such a step for a long time. We here have consistently in support of the African Three stance to shorten the length of inspection regimes extension and mandate of a panel of experts extension to shorten the length in order to have an opportunity to review the arms embargo and other parameters already this year. And we would like to assure our Somali friends that when these issues are come up for consideration in December, they can count on our support. We welcome what appears in the draft, thanks to the efforts of the African Three, the restriction that is on access to weapons acquisition by non-state bodies. In December 2023, we've already pointed out the flaws in Security Council Resolution 2713 because it contains provisions on automatic exemptions to weapons supplies to private security companies, exemptions for them from the sanctions regimes. We still do not know the names of those private security councils, of those security companies. We'd like to underscore the fact that when this document was being drafted, our proposal was not taken into account. Our proposal to focus the parameters of this regime exclusively on al-Shabaab without introducing any foreign elements into this. We are convinced that the Yemen issue needs to be considered separately. And there is every opportunity to do that within the framework of the regime we have under Security Council Resolution 2140. We do not see in the materials put forward by the panel of experts, we don't see there any convincing elements for the theory according to which there's supposedly a systematic flow of weapons between Yemen and Somalia. And other delegations share these doubts. And this shows very clearly that the appearance of this paragraph here doesn't have anything to do with extending assistance to Somalia. Quite to the contrary, what we have here is the intent of an individual Security Council member to politicize this issue for many years to come, implementing their own interest in the neighboring region through a resolution on how to counter al-Shabaab. And this is being done using inter alia the pen holders of this issue. This stance vis-a-vis Somalia is just irresponsible. We also would like to point out the considerable impact by African delegations and Guyana in preparing this document. We are convinced that the councils should pay greater attention to the position expressed by African states, especially when parameters are being determined for the sanctions regimes used against the terrorists which are active on their territory. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of France.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I wish to congratulate you on acceding to the presidency for the month of March. I wish to thank the United Kingdom for its work that has allowed us to adopt the unanimous renewal as Security Council members of the sanctions regime targeting Al-Shabaab. The adoption of this resolution bears witness to support for the efforts of the Somalian government and those of its bilateral and multilateral partners in the fight against Al-Shabaab. This group stands as a threat to peace and security, not only in Somalia, but also in the region, a region already weakened by various crises and conflicts. France welcomes the renewal of the sanctions regime for 1 year from the date of adoption of the Resolution 2762. This has allowed for a brief technical rollover. France is ready to continue working with the rest of Council members to ensure the full effectiveness of this regime. This in support of the efforts made by the federal government of Somalia to counter Al-Shabaab. France remains concerned by the flows of arms and munitions moving from Yemen to Somalia. This is a violation of the arms embargo targeting Al-Shabaab. It is vital to prevent Al-Shabaab from establishing and exploiting ties with groups under sanctions in the region, including the Houthis. I thank you.
I thank the representative of France for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam President. Warmest congratulations on assuming the presidency of the Council following the sterling stint of China last month. Please rest assured of our delegation's full support and cooperation. Madam President, Pakistan has voted in favor of the resolution. We greatly appreciate the efforts undertaken by the United Kingdom to garner consensus on the draft, facilitating its unanimous adoption. Pakistan supports Somalia's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. Al-Shabaab continues to pose a significant threat to the peace and security in Somalia and the region. The presence of affiliate terrorist elements linked to ISIL-Daesh is equally worrisome. Notwithstanding the recent successes against Al-Shabaab achieved by the Somalian forces, supported by the African Union United Nations mission, we cannot afford to let our guard down. Madam President, I would like to make the following 3 points. 1. We believe that the AU's sustained engagement with Somalia augurs well for peace and stability in the region. The new AU support and stabilization mission in Somalia needs sustainable and predictable financial support for its operations to protect gains made against Al-Shabaab. 2. Fighting the scourge of terrorism would require a united regional and global effort. Pakistan stands ready to share its counter-terrorism experience and expertise with our African partners and provide capacity building in this regard. Lastly, Al-Shabaab's ability to radicalize, recruit, raise funds via extortion and piracy and procure weapons must be disrupted. Continued humanitarian assistance and support for economic development of Somalia is vital to addressing the root causes of terrorism. Let me conclude by recalling that Pakistan enjoys close and fraternal ties with Somalia and will continue to support our brethren both as a member of the Security Council and bilaterally. I thank you, Madam President.
And I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.